We've lost 20 of our soldiers in the biggest and the most unprecedented face-off between India and China at the line of actual control. Let's get you first details of what the Indian Army said in their statement last night. They confirmed that 20 personnel have been martyred in that face-off in Galwan Valley in Ladakh. The statement also said that the Indian Army is firmly committed to protecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the nation. As per news agency ANI, the number of those dead and injured have gone up to 43 on the Chinese side. ANI also reported that there's been an increase in Chinese chopper activity across the LAC, essentially to airlift casualties in the brawl. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Home Minister Amit Shah last evening over the Chinese escalation. And so far there's been a statement that's come from the Ministry of External Affairs in which the MEA has said that China departed from consensus to respect the LAC and that it attempted to unilaterally change status quo. MEA has also said in a statement that there wouldn't have been casualties if China respected the agreement and that India's activities so far are only on its own side of the line of actual control. And we're getting you all the details that you need to know at this point on the face-off between India and China. We have senior editor Shivarur joining us on this broadcast. He's been staying on top of all the news breaks that have been coming in. We were the first channel to also get you all the details of exactly what happened on Monday night. Abhishek Bhalla joins us also live from Delhi. We have Shuja Ulha getting us the latest updates from Srinagar, and Geeta Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, also joining us on this broadcast. Before I go across for more details of exactly what's happening, here's an update that's coming in. The Indian Army will be releasing the names of all the soldiers who have been killed in that face-off. So the names of all the 20 soldiers will be released today. This comes after, of course, some communication is given to the family members first. Sources at this point are telling us that nothing really has changed on the ground and that there will have to, in fact, be some action that's initiated on the ground. At this point, the situation is very, very volatile and nothing much has really emerged from the talks so far. As far as India is concerned, we have heightened up our activity and alert in different parts across the line of actual control, not just restricted to Ladakh. Let me take this across first to Abhishek Bhalla for more details. So, Abhishek, you were telling us earlier that nothing much has changed in the line of actual control, that at this point things are still very, very volatile.
Well, Akshita, with the way how things have panned out, the situation on the ground remains extremely volatile. And what sources are me is that, some firm action has to be initiated to ensure that, things do not remain how they are. The reason why they say this is because there has been a clear attempt. Now, even the Ministry of External Affairs in its official statement last evening said this, that China tried to change status quo. And that's exactly what the Indian Army sources are also saying now, because there was a disengagement plan that was drawn out. There was consensus from both the sides that preceded this violent clash. And India was hoping that, there will be a pullback. But that didn't seem to have translated on the ground. And in some way, it appears that the Chinese backstabbed. And, not only did they not go back, but they remained in areas extremely close to the line of actual control, close to establishments of the Indian Army, and also came up with new encampments in those areas. And that's exactly what triggered this face-off when the Indian Army protested to these new developments. And since then, things have really remained tense. As far as the military dialogue is concerned, unfortunately, it doesn't seem that there will be any breakthrough. There really doesn't, there's really no need, it seems, sources say, to continue with this kind of a dialogue since it has not yielded any desired results.
So what do we do next then, Shiv? Considering that Abhishek is saying that at this point there's no breakthrough because of the dialogue and doesn't look likely that that's going to happen also in the near future, what do we do next? How do we ensure that we give a fitting message to China, but at the same time ensure that there's no unnecessary escalation?
Let's be very realistic about one thing, Akshita. This is China we're dealing with, a powerful country. This is a country that has taken India seriously in the past and needs to be taken seriously. The casualty figures, I don't want to get into the unseemly business of comparing casualty figures, but there have been extensive casualties on the Chinese side as well, including a commanding officer. That appears to be confirmed by almost all accounts that have been read, including on the Chinese side. So this was not a one-sided affair by any stretch of imagination. This was open bloodletting that was triggered by the Chinese. And Abhishek is absolutely right when he says that the talks that have been on since 7:30 a.m. yesterday have yielded no breakthrough. The only thing that they have yielded is that things have not spiraled out of control once again. Just imagine what the mental state of troops must be when their commanding officer has been practically slaughtered right in front of them. They will have nothing but revenge on their minds. They are very disciplined soldiers of 16 Bihar, and I'm sure that they are being kept very calm. But I can tell you that things are extremely tense. They can escalate at the slightest provocation, and that's the reason why Major Generals, from the Karu division, which is near Leh, brigadiers from the area have all descended on that particular point at Petrol Point 14 with the single point priority to make sure that tempers are cooled and things do not spiral out of control once again. Believe me, it's a hair trigger that's waiting for the smallest provocation for things to, simply escalate once again. Abhishek is also right when he says that it's not like this particular place is isolated from everywhere else. There are other posts and other standoff points in Ladakh and other places in Sikkim and Arunachal where troops will have heard about this and their tempers will be high as well. If you've heard about 20 of your comrades being killed in action in a brawl of this kind for the first time after 45 years, 45 years, most soldiers who are deployed on the border are far less than 45 years. So the last time such carnage happened was before they were born, Akshita. So it's something that's inconceivable on the China border. This is something that's made history in terms of relations between the two sides. Anything should be expected, but the biggest priority is that things don't escalate further, and that is what the talks are actually yielding in the very, very foreseeable near term.
Shiv, I want to understand also, how did it come to this? Because in the information that you gave out last night about how really things transpired on Monday, it almost seemed like the Chinese soldiers were itching for a fight. They were ready to provoke, they were ready to attack. How did it come to this? Because all along, after the talks that happened on June 6th, there seemed to be some sort of a consensus that had been reached.
The line that India Today has been has taken on China from the beginning stands confirmed with what happened on Monday night, Akshita. After the June 6th meeting between the two lieutenant generals on both sides, it had been agreed that the encampments in the Galwan Valley on Indian territory or territory claimed by India, would be dismantled and removed. Some of those camps were dismantled and removed, but midweek last week, as we have in our information, that camp was found to have been brought back by the Chinese secretly through a separate path, which was a complete violation of the disengagement agreement that had been decided by an unprecedented lieutenant general level round of talks. So this was ridiculous, and that's why the commanding officer, Colonel Santosh Babu, and his men, they went across to that camp to basically to, in a very peaceful way, say, hey, hello, why have you brought this camp back? We've decided that you're supposed to remove this. We've moved our stuff back. This camp had been removed. Why have you brought it back? This is an act of belligerence. When they reached there, they came under immediate attack. There was no discussion. There were no talks. They immediately came under attack with stones and barbed wire clubs and all sorts of things. And Colonel Santosh Babu was grievously injured in the first few minutes of the fight, we understand. And then he had to be removed from there. And then there was a counter attack after many Indian Jawans had been taken captive by the Chinese. And we're the only channel talking about this and having the guts to say that Indian soldiers were taken captive by that Chinese camp. They were surrounded on that camp by more Chinese troops. They were vastly outnumbered. This was on a very close to a cliff face going down to the Galwan River Valley, and we have pictures. I hope we can put that picture that I sent on the screen,
yes,
which actually shows you the exact location where this particular fight happened. And it's incredible that things escalated to such an extent that it was open bloodletting for 3.5 to 4 hours. So you can imagine, some sources that I speak to say that they're surprised that the casualty figures actually weren't higher than, what are being claimed right now.
Yes.
But what we can say is that anywhere between 30 and 60 men on both sides, a total of 30 to 60 men on both sides, 20 already confirmed by the Indian Army, have lost their lives in this clash. And it seems so inadequate, doesn't it, Akshita, to call it a clash when you've got 30 to 60 men dead.
And I think there are no words really that can sum up what really happened on Monday night. But Shiv, that picture that you were referring to, that's on our screens now. And that really shows, what kind of terrain it is. And that's what perhaps also led to so many casualties on both the Indian and the Chinese side. That rough terrain, we understand that several of our soldiers during that clash also fell in this particular terrain, led to them being grievously injured. If you could just explain, Shiv, the significance of this picture.
As you can see, the red line is the line of actual control. It's a zoomed out picture because the Indian our sources who've given us this picture have requested us not to use too much detail, to provide any kind of terrain intelligence. But if you look at the terrain here, and this is the Galwan River that you see there. These are slightly dated pictures, not real time. It gives you a sense of just how treacherous the terrain is. There are very steep slopes going down to the Galwan River, which is a very narrow river, Akshita, unlike the Shyok in which it flows into. And the Galwan River is a fast-flowing, narrow river. There are these almost sheer cliffs going down to the river, and the ridgeline overlooking this river is where this this fight actually took place. So once the bloodletting actually started, just picture large numbers of men chasing each other, hunting each other down, beating each other to a pulp, blood flowing on that ridgeline, absolute horror. Many of those men actually unarmed and totally unprepared for this. Reinforcements sent by the Indians coming with arms, all melee weapons, no firearms of any kind, and this kind of absolute carnage taking place there. Many men slipping and falling down the cliff into the river, many of them probably losing their lives or being severely injured while falling onto those rocks. We can confirm that this happened on both sides. There were Chinese soldiers also who fell, and many who were killed on top as well. There is information to suggest that a Chinese commanding officer, we have information that he was killed as well. But I want to categorically say, because India Today has been hailed since yesterday, since we broke the story yesterday, Akshita, since we've brought out every single detail of the biggest story, as I've called it, since the Kargil war. So I don't want to exaggerate any information. So I do want us to tell our viewers that there is no categorical confirmation on the numbers of the Chinese casualties just yet. It's all very well to put out figures through sources and, phone intercepts and things like that to try and balance the equation. But I can tell you, as the journalist who broke this story, as well as a person who is in touch with his sources on the ground in the Galwan Valley, that the number of casualties in China, on the Chinese side, is significantly high, possibly comparable with India's, but we don't have a number just yet. And if you look at this terrain, you can imagine this could not have been one-sided. If you had two armies, and the Indian army is no pushover, let's be clear about that. If a fight started, the Indian army fought back very strongly. You're going to hear many more stories of undaunted bravery that are going to come out today. I'm going to put those stories out. There is one particular story about a company commander, a major rank officer from the 16 Bihar, who went back, with his own band of men to rescue some of the Indian captives. All of those stories of valor are going to come out today or sometime during the rest of this week. This story is far from over, Akshita.
Okay, Shiv, I request you to stay on with us. There's also a breaking reaction that's coming in. As we mentioned earlier, you've got the opposition also raising questions over what's really happened at the line of actual control. Rahul Gandhi has now put out a tweet on the face-off that's happened at the line of actual control. He said, and I quote, "Why is the Prime Minister silent? Why is he hiding? Enough is enough. We need to know what's happened. How dare China kill our soldiers? How dare they take our land?" This is the tweet that Rahul Gandhi has put out. He's putting the onus on the Prime Minister to come out and give details about exactly what's happened, while also expressing outrage over what's happened at the Galwan Valley. So this is the reaction that's coming from Rahul Gandhi, and essentially the opposition has come together to demand answers from the government. You've also got several of them stating that now is the time for retaliation. As far as the government is concerned, we've got a statement from the Ministry of External Affairs so far, where they've stated that China, in fact, went away from the agreement that was decided upon between India and China, and that is the statement that's coming from the Ministry of External Affairs. Rahul Gandhi now asking why the Prime Minister is silent. Anand Patel is joining us with more details on this. Anand, Rahul Gandhi now putting out fresh questions for the Prime Minister. You've got the opposition since yesterday not just expressing shock over what's happened, but demanding some sort of statement from the government. Also, some of them saying that it's time now to call an all-party meet.
Well, yes, this has been the stand of the Congress party. But this tweet from Rahul Gandhi is a direct attack, on the government and on the Prime Minister himself. And you look at the pattern of Rahul Gandhi's tweets over the week since the standoff flared up. He's been questioning earlier the government about what is the situation on the LAC and asking the government to be transparent and tell the country and the opposition party as to what is exactly happening. But now, with 20 Indian soldiers martyred at the LAC, this tweet is a reflection of the anger and outrage in the entire country. This is what Rahul Gandhi has used this morning. Now, this is a stand different from what Sonia Gandhi sent out last night. It was a very sober message. As Congress Party President, she expressed grief over the martyrdom of our brave soldiers, and also said that in this time of crisis, the Congress Party stands united with the country and the government. So clearly a different stand taken here by Rahul Gandhi, perhaps a departure from the past where whenever such incidents happen, the opposition parties try to put up a united face with the government. But here Rahul Gandhi choosing to attack the government and a direct attack against the Prime Minister himself.
All right, Anand, thank you for getting us those details. Now, even as we're tracking closely all the reactions that come in, and this is the latest from Rahul Gandhi, let's continue to stay on the story here and tell you exactly what happened on June 15th. Here's, in fact, a blow-by-blow account that we've got for you about exactly what transpired and how we lost 20 of our soldiers. So the commanding officer of the Indian Army led an unarmed group. This is essentially a patrol team of sorts to the Chinese camp. The Chinese army then, in a completely unprovoked attack, charged at our soldiers, and they had rocks that were wrapped in barbed wires. They had metal clubs. They even had wooden logs, and all of them had nails around them. So there was no firing, but it is with these barbaric tools that they then attacked our soldiers. Immediately, our troops took the commanding officer, who we understand was injured almost immediately, and the Havaldar back. They left behind some injured Indian troops who were then taken captive instantly by these Chinese soldiers. After about 40 minutes, the same unit of the Indian Army, led by a major and a captain of company strength, troops returned and then assaulted the Chinese post. We understand that 55 to 56 Chinese soldiers were seriously assaulted. Many casualties were inflicted. There's no official figure from China, and that's expected. China will not, in all likelihood, come out with any official figure. There was a brigadier level Chinese officer at this post. He then waved for peace, and that's when the fighting stopped. The army quickly took back our soldiers who were held captive by the Chinese, and then also managed to push the Chinese army back. This assault was followed by multiple colonel level talks. For now, as far as the situation on the line of actual control goes, what we hear is that the army has taken charge of the ITBP posts in the Galwan Valley, but in other areas also along the line of actual control on the territories that are bordering China, we understand that a high alert has been sounded in every single part. Let's take this across now to Shuja ul Haq. He's joining us live from Srinagar. Shuja, as we put out those details of exactly what transpired, just tell us what is the situation now along the line of actual control. And I'm not just referring to Galwan Valley. We understand that now there's a heightened alert across the border territories with China.
Well, that's right. Absolutely, Akshita. In fact, since yesterday, our sources have constantly been telling us that an alert, a vigil has been sounded all across eastern Ladakh. It's not just in the Galwan Valley, but in Pangong Tso area, Dem Chowk, Daulat Beg, Oldi, all these areas, the troops have been asked to be extremely alert. Like we've been pointing out, that this is an incident which has no parallel in, many decades between the two countries, particularly in Ladakh. They haven't seen this kind of escalation in many years. So obviously there would be tensions on the ground. The troops on the ground are also very angry. There is angst among many people that I have spoken to on the ground. So overall, there are efforts being made to try and calm the situation down, but at the same time, my sources in the army say that the firmness is very visible. The Indian side has categorically made it clear that they want talks, they want de-escalation on the line of actual control. But at the same time, they're not going to let go of the guard that has been prepared for last more than 5 weeks now. And Akshita, quickly to point out a few things that I have been able to gather from the ground. The night of the Monday night was extremely tough for the troops. The fighting, particularly on the ridge line, continued almost for 4 or 5 hours, and at the dawn, when the higher authorities or the commanders went in, there were reports that the injured soldiers are still there at the ridge line, and the Chinese troops were making it difficult for any evacuation. But then the div commanders level officers intervened. That is when the entire evacuation could take place. So it in itself gives an idea of how difficult this entire situation was. And even as we speak, my sources say that tensions at this point of time are heightened. Anything can happen, but the efforts are being made to calm the situation down.
Yes, and there's also been a statement. I'd like to take this across to Geeta Mohan, also a Foreign Affairs editor. Geeta, there's also been a statement that's come in so far from the Ministry of External Affairs. If you could tell us exactly what the MEA has stated so far and what's happened.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry had yesterday put out a statement saying that it was unilateral action by India that caused the loss of life at the India-China border. Ministry of External Affairs took its time because there were a lot of meetings all through the day. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar was in back-to-back meetings with Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, and later went to apprise the Prime Minister of the developments at the border. Finally, we had a statement that came our way, very clearly spelling out the lies that have been put out by China, that it was not a unilateral action by India, but the fact that China changed the status quo, leading to the violent clashes between the forces of India and China, and the loss of life. Also reminding China that dialogue is the only way out, but this is unprecedented. Meanwhile, in Beijing as well, Ambassador Vikram Misri met with the Vice Foreign Minister Luo Zhaohui, who was also the Chinese ambassador to India during the Doklam crisis, and a very important India hand at that. The engagements continued all through, but the stand is very clear that China will have to ensure that they revert back to the status quo that existed and cannot keep changing the status quo in a very sensitive area such as the India-China border. We've had reactions coming in from the United States as well. They're monitoring the situation. We know that Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had spoken initially when the situation was becoming tense between India and China. India made it very clear that it's a bilateral issue, but they have expressed concerns and offered condolences to the families of those who've lost their loved ones at the border. So a lot of reactions coming in, but the template is clear. China says one thing, does another at the border, and then uses its Chinese mouthpieces such as Global Times, CCTV, CGTN to put out information of what they really want. And the difference over here, Akshita, when Shiv was talking about loss of life on both sides, is that in a democracy, the leadership is responsible and answerable to the country. In an authoritarian regime, on the contrary, no matter what the numbers are, they're not responsible, they're not accountable, nobody asks questions, and they do not answer. So that's a huge difference. Having said that, and I've maintained this all through yesterday also, that this is a situation which is unprecedented and requires the political leadership to step in to resolve the crisis. Even during Doklam, we saw after weeks, we saw President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi engage each other, and that's when there was de-escalation of the Doklam crisis. So the political leadership will have to come out and step in, but also expecting the Prime Minister to come out with a statement. In the past, during UPA governments, we've sought statements from the Congress party at the time and the government at the time, but the case was different. It was Pakistan. So we saw BJP in the opposition raise a lot of voice about seeking answerability and seeking answers from the dispensation back then. This is China. So handling the leadership to speak up.
No, and that's a good point that you brought up, Geeta. Shiv, do you think that now the onus is completely on the political leadership? We've tried to have dialogue. That's led nowhere really. There's been no breakthrough on that front. Things are still very, very volatile at the line of actual control. Do you believe the onus is now on the government to ensure that things really cool down and things move in the right direction with China?
You know, I wish I had the answer to that question, but, you know, I don't want to sound like I know, you know, precisely how this is going to work, because even as a journalist, not only am I angry, but I'm extremely disillusioned, and I imagine everyone else must be as well, considering that we've had colonel level talks, we've had brigadier level talks, we've had major general level talks, we've had history's first Lieutenant General level talks between both countries, and this bloodletting has happened despite that wide variety of diplomatic and military engagement between both sides, Akshita. And, you know, to Geeta's point, there's no comparing the two countries. I think what we've seen over the last 24 hours confirms that India is a democracy and China is an authoritarian regime where there is no accountability to its people. We have repeatedly said, there have been wake-up calls and reminders repeatedly about how China is a country that cannot be trusted. The Chinese virus was only the latest reminder, and now we've got this horrible carnage in the Galwan Valley to tell us that China is not even willing to respect a simple agreement that's been conducted over a handshake between two lieutenant generals. So this is a country that cannot be trusted. I don't think India needs any more reminders of this. In my personal view, not just as a journalist but also a citizen, all your border mechanisms have proverbially hit the fan. None of them work anymore. There is no reliability on your border tranquility agreements such as they were, even though they worked so well for 50 years. This is a new China, post-coronavirus, post-global pressure under COVID-19. This is a China that sees an opportunity in asserting itself. It sees an opportunity during this global conflict, to try and change the status quo as far as its authoritarian intentions are concerned. And it has showed its cards very, very clearly in this. So I think whether it is diplomacy, whether it is, a military response, I hope it doesn't have to come to that, whether it is, a much greater amount of security along the line of actual control, converting it into something like the LOC, which would be the most tragic sequence of events in my opinion, because it means a greater militarization of one of the most beautiful parts of the country, are all very much possibilities. But I think there has been, in some ways, I would never give up on diplomacy, either military or at the government level. I don't think we ever should. The fact that talks are still happening even after an event like this in its own way is a tribute to the success of diplomacy. But I have to say that I am disillusioned, and I think many people are, that despite all these rounds of talks, a clash like this happened. May we never forget that anywhere between 30 and 60 people have died on a lonely ridgeline in a mountain in the Himalayas, despite officers at every possible level talking, having a cup of tea and having a handshake in Chushul, Moldo and other places. Let's never ever forget that. That's the country we're dealing with here.
And the essential takeaway here is that there's no question that we all agree that China cannot be trusted. In such a circumstance then, how do you have dialogue, how do you have any sort of breakthrough in talks or in any form really with the Chinese and ensure that there's an agreement that's reached upon and followed by China? Now, even as we continue to get you all the details of what really happened on June 15th, the Indian Army will be releasing the names of the 20 martyrs today. Anytime, in fact, is what we're expecting. Rahul Kanwal explains to you exactly what happened at the Galwan Valley with this map.
In this general area of Patrol Point 14, when the confrontation took place, some of the soldiers fell off the ledge and into the Galwan River, which is when they were exposed to sub-zero temperatures, because that's icy water. It's really cold. It's a very narrow river, but very, very cold, very, very fast. Some Indian soldiers slipped into it, some Chinese soldiers slipped into it as well. So that's essentially what happened here. So from what we've been able to gather is this, that the Chinese had agreed that there would be disengagement, and then last evening there was a verification party of 6 Bihar which went up to see whether the Chinese had actually disengaged from this Patrol Point 14 position or not. And there they found that the Chinese troops that were deployed there were actually in a very venomous kind of mood, almost as if they were itching for a fight. And anybody who knows a verification party knows that the numbers are very small. We don't know the exact numbers, but a very small party goes out to see whether the Chinese actually disengaged or not. That's when reinforcements were called in. Before that, situations got out of hand over here and there was violence. So they had barbed wires, they had rods, and it got really, really messy. Initially we were outnumbered, then more troops of the 6 Bihar came in, and by then the commanding officer was already badly injured, and as a result of which, very naturally, the 6 Bihar boys were furious, and that led to a huge escalation in the violence, and as a result of which there were heavy fatalities on the Chinese side as well. The Chinese have said, because they've suffered greater fatalities from what we gather, that they don't want to reveal the number in the public. But the Indian Army is a professional army and they don't hide fatalities. They in fact honor our dead, and therefore there is no question of this being like a COVID death which the Chinese just brush under the carpet and the whole world is scratching its head wondering what's happening. The Indians reveal the toll that they had to suffer as a result of this violence, and that stands at 20. I'm told, unfortunately, that number could potentially go up. There are more people who are critically injured, more soldiers critically injured, so that toll could potentially rise.
So that's an explainer of exactly what happened and where it happened in Ladakh. Let me once again take this across to Shuja ul Haq, who's getting us all the details of what's happening as we speak at the line of actual control. Shuja, you did tell us that at this point there's a high alert sounded across the border with China. Is there also an expectation that there could be more deployment of personnel along these areas? And I'm not just referring to Ladakh, but also in other areas like in Uttarakhand, the northeast?
Well, Akshita, you know, ever since this standoff has started, which has been more than a month now, there has been constant, upgradation of troop deployment or, machinery that has been sent to these forward positions. Just a rough estimate suggests that reserves have also been put in, which means thousands of troops are already on the ground at most of these locations. So, that process has already been on. And from what the sources have been saying, that the visual has only been upgraded since this incident has taken place because of two reasons. One, of course, the possibility of escalation at other places, and also, like we have been saying, that a lot of troops are angry. I mean, they might have heard about what has happened in Galwan, and that could lead into more escalation or trigger points. So to control all of that, there is a mechanism that has been put in place from Indian side, where commanders, the officers, have been, camping at most of the forward places. They're trying to monitor the situation very, very closely. So far, since yesterday, there hasn't been any report of any more escalation. But yes, I can tell you that from most of the people that I've been speaking, the situation does not seem to be really good. It is fluid, quote unquote, to specifically quote a person who has been on the ground. And most of the people who are working at this point of time are saying that there needs to be intervention, perhaps at a diplomatic level, so that some changes are made, because now it is very clear the Chinese side has dishonored all the agreements that were tried to put in place, from the beginning of this standoff. They haven't even moved back to places where they have agreed upon. So it clearly does seem give you an idea of how the situation on the ground is at this point of time.
What's clear is what we're dealing with at this point is unprecedented. It's going to require interventions in multiple levels to really ensure that there is some semblance of normalcy at the line of actual control. Remember, we have lost 20 of our soldiers during this clash with Chinese soldiers at the line of actual control. And what really stands out every single time an incident like this happens is how proud and how strong and courageous the family members of these soldiers are. We've spoken to Colonel Santosh Babu's mother and father. Remember, he was killed in the line of fire, and his mother at this point says she is sad, yes, but she's also very, very proud of her son. Listen in to how these parents have spoken about their son, so emotional and yet so filled with pride.
మా కోడలు అక్కడే ఉంది, ఢిల్లీలో ఉంది ప్రస్తుతం. ఆమె చెప్పింది వాళ్ళు కూడా ఇచ్చారు, వాళ్ళు కూడా వాళ్ళ సంతోష్ బాబు అని చెప్పేసి
అంటే మీకు ఎట్లా అనిపిస్తుంది అని ఇట్లా ఈ విధంగా జరిగింది కదా?
ఒకవైపు బాధగా ఉంది, ఒకవైపు సంతోషం. దేశం కోసం నా కొడుకు ఇచ్చిన కానీ తల్లిగా బాధపడుతుంది. ఒక్కడే బాబు నాకు.
ఏం పేరు అండి మీ పేరు? ఏం పేరు?
నా పేరు మంజుల.
ఒకటే బాబా?
ఒక్కడే బాబు, ఒక బాబు.
మీకు ఎప్పుడు సమాచారం ఇచ్చారండి? ఎట్లా?
మా కోడలికి నైట్ తెలుసంట, నాకు మాత్రం మధ్యాహ్నం చెప్పింది, నేను తట్టుకోలేనని చెప్పేసి మధ్యాహ్నం 2 గంటలకు నాకు చెప్పింది.
We never expected this kind of untoward incident that we have to accept. Finally, okay, as a parent, I have my own grief and my deep worry. So, as a citizen of India, as a defense family person, I feel proud of my son. I feel proud of my son.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.